Hello everyone, my name is Lea Wolf and I work with the Peace Dealer, and tonight I would like to talk about Scorpio season and Halloween and go through a brief overview of the transits right now and really talk about Samhain and Day of the Dead. So first of all, right now the moon is in Pisces, which is a water element, and the sun is in Scorpio, which is also in a water sign as well. So the sun and the moon are both in water signs at this time, which makes it a very spiritually charged, intuitive kind of night. It's a very great night tonight on Halloween to do spiritual work, whether you're honoring your ancestors, making an ancestor altar for loved ones or ancestors or people who've passed on, or you want to just do magic tonight or meditate or do dream work or work water magic. It's a beautiful night for doing work like that because of the water element right now. And this is my little guy, don't mind him. So Halloween, you know, people think that Halloween or All Hallows Eve is about little kids, you know, eating too much candy and trick-or-treating and getting drunk and putting costumes on. And while that is one facet of the holiday, and a lot of people enjoy that and it's a lot of fun, there's so much more to Halloween and its history, so much more than meets the eye and than what a lot of people realize. And I would just like to talk about that for a little bit. So another name for Halloween could be Samhain, which is a holiday celebrated by pagans, witches, and druids throughout the world, although it originated in Europe and was considered a Celtic fire festival, and ways that it was practiced and still could be practiced is by burning bonfires, practicing fire magic, leaving ancestor altars or offerings for the ancestors, amongst many other things that are done during Samhain. Samhain isn't technically just one day. It could be celebrated throughout several days. Everyone could do it a little bit differently. It just depends upon how they want to practice it, but it's not just limited to one day necessarily. Another, like Day of the Dead, is quite similar in that people are using it as a time to honor loved ones who passed on and leave offerings for spirit, and it's considered a time where the veil between the living and the dead is thinnest. You know, it's also Scorpio season, and Scorpio is traditionally ruled by the 8th house, and the 8th house governs over themes such as sex, death, inheritance, other people's money, rebirth, just life force. The cycle of life, you know, is what Scorpio season is about. And it's the time of year where, you know, summer's really over now and we're approaching winter and it's getting darker and darker. And it's a cyclical change of season is what it marks. And, you know, there's different ways that people celebrate Day of the Dead. Day of the Dead traditionally came from Mexico, but people celebrate it here in the United States and around the world, and it's gaining more and more popularity amongst other cultures that are taking an interest in it. You know, I've celebrated Day of the Dead myself, and there's so many ways you could do it. Everybody has their own way they like to do it, but traditionally speaking, people make an altar for their loved ones, an ancestor altar. They might have photos of their ancestors or their loved ones who've passed on, or dear friends who've passed on, or even beloved pets that have passed on. Or they'll put a dog collar for their dog that passed away on their altar, or a photo of the animal or of the person, or even their loved one's favorite food or favorite drink or favorite alcoholic beverage is left out. Now, some people will go to their loved one's grave and leave offerings too. That's done quite a bit in Mexico. But here, for me personally, I just celebrate it at home. You know, I may put out photos of my pets that have passed on or of ancestors of mine, and I just use it as a day to look back on the roots and where I've come from and be grateful and thankful to my ancestors and show them appreciation. And, you know, everybody does it a little bit differently. For me, what I like to do is, you know, have my altar set up, and maybe, you know, because the veil is so thin, I might try to tune into a different ancestor and ask questions and pull the tarot cards out and pull a card. Like, I could ask, like, give me a hint of what theme you want me to focus on tonight during this time. ask a question like that, or whatever question you have in mind for your ancestors, you can ask for their guidance. And that's what I usually do. I have a list of my ancestors in my family tree, and I ask different ancestors different questions that I want guidance on, and I'll just pull cards like, so I'll ask, what should my spiritual practice be tonight on Halloween? So I'm just going to pull a card, and we can talk about the card a little bit for a moment. Interesting. So I pulled the Emperor. So perhaps that could mean a number of different things for me. So I pulled the Emperor card. So it could mean maybe focus on male ancestors of mine, or focus on, you know, my father perhaps, or male authority figures in my life, or male figures in my life, or maybe tune into my masculine side and honor that. You know, there's a number of different ways I could interpret what this card would mean. It could mean connect to more of your male ancestors. Personally, for me, I think it means I need to honor my male ancestors more, as I've mostly focused on leaving offerings for female ancestors in the past. So that's how I interpret this card. But it's something you could do before you set up your altar, or before you really get started on celebrating Day of the Dead. And you know, some people, when they celebrate or practice their spiritual practice for this day, you know, they may have different themes they focus on, and they may want a clue, and you could use a tarot deck, or you could meditate and write down what comes to you. There's a number of different ways people can honor their ancestors. You know, for me, I have candles, I have flowers, I have, you know, one of my friends that passed away in high school, she was Polish, and she loved pierogies, and she loved Pepsi. So I always put her photo out, and I leave pierogies out, and I always leave some Pepsi out for her, as a way to honor her because she passed on. You know, so that's just one example of what I do to honor one spirit that's passed on. Now, everybody's way they do this is different. It's really up to them. And it's a beautiful time to really honor the spirit world and honor loved ones that have passed on, and really reflect on that. And, you know, it's a time, if you're struggling in your life and you need answers, it's a great time of year to just tune in with your ancestors, honor them, ask them questions, just interact with them. And every year it's going to be a little bit different. You know, don't have expectations. Another thing that could be really interesting to do on a night like this, where the sun is in Scorpio and the moon is in Pisces, and there's all this water element going on with the sun and moon, a great thing you could do is try to do Akashic Records journeying. You could do mirror magic. You could do mirror meditation. You could scry with a candle flame and just kind of meditate and look at that. You know, there's all sorts of different things you could do to get yourself in a meditative state for honoring this spiritual time of year. So those are just some ideas and overviews of things you can do. There's all sorts of things people like to do, but these are just some other ideas that maybe you haven't heard of. But you know, it's what makes this Halloween special is that the moon's in Pisces. And you know, Pisces is ruled by Neptune, and Neptune is about, you know, creativity. It's about costumes, makeup, stage makeup. It's about kind of being a chameleon and morphing and channeling into something else that you normally aren't. It's you can get in touch with your shadow side, because Neptune does kind of rule the shadow, and so does Scorpio. When you think about it, they're both water signs. You know, Neptune's ruled by the 12th house, and Scorpio's ruled by the 8th house, and they're both houses in the zodiac that do govern over the shadow side of psyche. Scorpio more so about sex and death and rebirth issues, and Neptune related shadow aspects could be more about like deception, the unconscious, your dream state. You know, so the beautiful thing about today is you can honor both those aspects. You can hone in on your subconscious, hone in on meditation and spiritual practice, and your dream and the dreams you have tonight, maybe write them down or just hone in on that Scorpio rebirth energy and honor your ancestors and those who've passed on. So that's just my take on tonight with the transits. And it's especially great because the moon's waxing. So if you want to manifest something or focus on something, I would focus on bringing things to you because the moon is waxing and it's getting bigger and bigger. So it's a great time to try to attract things to you, whether it's answers or outcomes or different things you want to focus on. I would suggest that. I do have a few more things I'd like to talk about before ending. And that would be, you know, like back to Samhain. So Samhain, yes, it's celebrated by witches, Wiccans, and Druids and other pagans, but you don't necessarily have to be a pagan to celebrate Samhain. You can still learn about it and research about it for your own interest. And, you know, it's considered, it's the festival of the dead, just like Day of the Dead. It's celebrating the dead and honoring them. And Samhain technically means summer's end. And at this time, it's getting darker and darker. So it's okay to embrace the darkness and learn from it, because in the darkness, that's where the answers lie. That's where you find your answers on your journey, is in the darkness. And it's great that the moon's waxing right now. It makes a great atmosphere for Halloween. The other thing we have to look forward to is that right after Day of the Dead ends, on November 2nd, November 3rd, we have a full moon in Taurus. And when the moon is full, that means that the moon is in a sign that is in polarity with the sun sign. It has to be opposite the sun. The moon and the sun have to be opposite each other in the zodiac, be 6 signs apart and in polarity, because the sun has to be lighting up the moon and be across from it for you to see it in the sky. You need to have the sun light up the moon in order to see it when it's in the full moon phase. And that will be occurring on November 3rd, and the full moon will be in Taurus. So the full moon will be in an earth element. And Taurus is ruled by the 2nd house, which has to do with money matters, material possessions, sensuality, artistic expression, music, art, culture, theater. It also has to do with your personal values. So if you're doing magic or spiritual work or trying to manifest things and attract things to you right now, I really suggest focusing on material things, whether it's like you want to get a new job, or you want to attract more money into your life, or more abundance, or more prosperity, or maybe you want to find a new home. This is a great time to work that kind of magic or manifestation out. Or those are great themes to meditate on right now while the moon's waxing and getting larger and larger, or on November 3rd when the moon is in Taurus and it's full. So that's just my 2 cents about what's going on. It's just a brief overview of what's going on astrologically. Yeah, I mean, enjoy Day of the Dead, celebrate it, have a good time. Even if it's your first time, don't get overwhelmed, don't get intimidated. Just do it how you see fit. There's no perfect way to do it or no wrong way to do it. You just need to trust your intuition and enjoy the journey. I want to thank you for listening and taking the time to watch this video, and I look forward to making more videos for you. Thank you, and have a great night.